The Pope Francis, says that journalism that is based on fear-mongering and gossip should be noted as terrorism. And that's a very powerful statement, a very important statement. Now, he gave a speech in St. Peter's Square at Vatican City, and he gave the speech to leaders of Italy's National Journalists Guild. So let's hear from the speech. So according to Reuters.com, Pope Francis said, quote, "Spreading rumors is an example of terrorism, of how you can kill a person with your tongue. This is even more true for journalists because their voice can reach everyone, and this is a very powerful weapon." He goes on to say in the speech, "Journalism should not be used as a weapon of destruction against persons and even entire peoples. Neither should it foment fear before events like forced migration from war or from hunger." Now, we know that Pope Francis has been very supportive of refugee rights, of migrants' rights, and I think this is so important to say. I mean, even here in the US, I mean, you can look at a lot of those newspapers, those far-right magazines and newspapers and those headlines that spew the hate-mongering propaganda in Europe and in Italy, but we deal with that here too in the US with a lot of these far-right papers and Fox News. So it's so important that he said this.
So I'm actually very conflicted about this story. So, okay, I'll tell you why. Because we overuse the word terrorism. Now everything is terrorism. Now there's terrorism of the tongue. Okay, and I thought it was nice. And so I took it a weirdly dirty way when he said you could kill a person with your tongue. Can
you say it like, what's her name?
Oh, I like that thing you do with your tongue. That's from Game of Thrones. Okay, so the word is overused. I do like, though, that he flipped it on the right wing, because the right wing is always saying, "Oh, terrorist, terrorist, terrorist." He's like, "Oh yeah, there's a new left-wing pope in town. I think you're the terrorist." Okay, right. And I don't like that thing you do with your tongue. So, okay, I enjoy that. But mainly, the most important point, if you put aside the tongues and the word terrorism, is him saying, hey, listen, you're doing a lot of damage here. These are the neediest people in the world. As Christians, we're supposed to look out for the needy. And when you go around smearing the needy, and when they're in danger and they're worried about their kids and their kids' lives, and they're running from monsters like ISIS, and you don't want to take them in and you smear them, or you smear your own political opponents, as is happening in Italy a lot in the press, and you ruin their lives that way for your own political agenda. These are not Christian things to do. That's not a thing that you look at and go, wow, that's mighty Christian of you. That's not how that sentence goes. So it's great to have a pope that's pointing that out.
I agree, and do you guys want to weigh in here? I feel like
yeah, I mean, I love when he talk. I realize in journalism today, I mean, this is the Pope. It just seems in journalism today, an uninterrupted flow of events recounted 24 hours, 7 days a week is not always easy to arrive at the truth. Like he's criticizing cable news, or at least get close to it. Not everything in life is black and white. Even in journalism, one needs to know how to discern between the shades of gray and the events you were called to cover. Political debates, even many conflicts, are rarely the result of a distinct, clear dynamic in which it is possible to recognize precisely and unequivocally who is wrong and who is right. Like, again, it's just not.
It's almost as if you wrote that.
I know, right?
That's why you love that. But it's great. You know what? The other thing that's great about it? It's not just that he's left wing. It's like a pleasure to have a really smart person in a position of authority. Yeah. Like it doesn't happen. Usually, it's like somebody like alpha male, right? Me destroy, and everybody's like, yeah, destroy, go get him. And here's a guy who's smart, sophisticated,
and empathetic. Underscore empathetic. Jimmy?
Barack Obama's an intellect. He's in charge of things. Mm-hmm. I like him.
Yeah, well, yeah, he does have an intellect. There's no question.
This is what frustrates me the most when it comes to the refugee crisis. And the more that people push this anti-refugee agenda, the more desperate the people are going to get. And the more that you skew these headlines to promote your anti-refugee propaganda by using misinformation and fear-mongering, the more it's going to influence people, the more that's going to affect policy. And then the reason why I think terrorism is the appropriate word is because the more that's going to affect people and their lives. It's hijacking their rights, it's hijacking their actual lives. And when you look at some of the camps, because even the refugees that, you know, here in the United States, it's like an 18-month vetted process, right? Well, when some of these refugees are going into the camps, there's one, you know, called the jungle. Google the jungle. It does not look like a very hospitable place to spend one night, 1 week, and or a matter of months, and then you have families, and sometimes they're seldom water, there's seldom food, and disease can be rampant. So you have these people who, what are they left to do here? What are they left to do? Can they go home to this war-torn country? No. Can they risk being executed? They risk being murdered, and then they're left to be in these camps if they do follow this protocol. And sometimes they don't even get to migrate. And if they do finally get to, end up in Europe or the UK or the US, they have to wait out that long process with their children. Of course, they're going to act desperately. So it's heart-wrenching to just put yourself in someone else's shoes. Put yourself in their shoes, and that's what Pope Francis does, and I love that about him.
Yeah. Can I just say real quick about so I still don't like the word, even though you make a compelling case for it, and I don't want people to get me wrong. I don't want to start convicting people on their thoughts, but let's just focus on whether they're the right ideas or not. And to Sam's point, they're risking their kids' lives crossing the waters,
right.
And that's why you've got the drowned kids that wash up on shore. You think they did that because they weren't scared to death? You think they did that because they want to harm us? No, they're trying to get their family to safety. Have just a tiny bit of empathy for them. Even if you disagree or with the policy, etc., get that they're human beings and they're doing the most natural thing, what you would do for your kids. And for God's sake, if ISIS wants to come into the country, there are so many easier ways. You can get a visa and come in immediately without waiting for an 18-month vetting process. There's almost no vetting process for the visas. Whereas there's a tremendous vetting process for the refugees. A refugee is the worst way to come into the country if you're trying to get in quick and efficiently.
I'm so happy you said that, and I just have to piggyback on that point real quickly, and then I'll stop talking. But do you remember when that study came out last year? It was the Migration Policy Institute study where it took a look at, don't quote me on the number, but it was like 780-something thousand refugees that had been let in the United States post 9/11. And of course, at the same time, there was all this misinformation that we have so many terrorists here in the country that came in as refugees. And then this study was able to showcase that only three of the 784,000 had terrorist ties. They were discovered, investigated, and they're now in prison today. So you have to look at that small percentage, that 0.00003, whatever that small, tiny percentage is. 3 people of 784,000.
Yeah, let's put it this way. Let's say if there was a bowl of Skittles.
That was so frustrating, Donald Jr. That was so frustrating.
Let me finish. I say the Pope sticks to the saving my soul, and I'll let Brian Williams take care of the news, okay?
Okay, so the Skittles analogy, you're going to make me go back into it. Okay, as Sam points out, 3 Skittles out of 786,000 Skittles.
It's not even fair to call that a percentage.
Yeah, and that's not statistically significant.
That's right.
And by the way, 2 out of the 3 were actually looking to do terrorism to other countries, not to us. Okay, but we stopped them anyway. Okay, and you say,
so you're saying we let one terrorist in, Obama let a terrorist in. That's
no, but that's what people would say.
What if they kill your kid and then? You see what? And you'll Trump.
Right. So that's why, but people will say that. That's why I wanted to add 2 quick things to that. One is that, but if we let drunks into the country, alcoholics, you'll get a much higher percentage of crime, violent crime, murders that happened in 3 out of 786,000. So should we all now do a vetting thing on do you drink too much alcohol, etc.? You do different categories, you'll eliminate all the Skittles.
But
and then secondly, what about the upside of the other 786,000 Skittles? So for example, if we had done this policy earlier, the famous example, you would have blocked a Muslim Syrian refugee who was Steve Jobs' dad. And by the way, Donald Trump Jr. sent that meme out on an iPhone that would not have existed if we had done his policy earlier. At the Young Turks, we believe in change. We believe we can change the media, make it more independent. Come do it with us. tytnetwork.com/join.